6, a helping hand with your land.
Neil from Essex here, out today to talk you through some of the things that you might want to check if you're picking up a new piece of equipment. Dealerships go through varying processes in order to prep machines for delivery. We do our best to catch everything, but as I'll show you here, there's a couple things that wouldn't be too bad for you to go back through and double check the first time you receive a machine. When you walk out into a dealership's parking lot and you see that long line of tractors sitting out there, they didn't arrive here that way. Most every piece of equipment that comes into us is going to come in generally crated, sometimes in big wooden boxes like this backhoe is, or most of the tractors are going to kind of come in with metal crates with no tires on them. It's because a lot of what we do as salespeople and as a dealership is prepping a tractor for you specifically for your application. These things are not one size fits all. I mean, there's different tires for different applications, different size buckets and backhoes, and you name it. There's a lot of complexity that goes into configuring a machine for the right customer. When we go through those processes, we're assembling a lot of different things, and so it's not a bad idea to take a second look at those assembly points. Now, a service technician is going to go through, say when he installs this backhoe, he's going to put the subframes on. He's going to have 12, 16, 18 bolts to go around and run into the chassis of the tractor, which he's going to run around and torque up. If you know anything though about torques, if you say you put a new set of tires on your car, once you torque something down and you first start to use it, those pieces can work around and some of those nuts can loosen up again. So it's not a bad idea if you own a torque wrench or even just to grab a big ratchet and to go around and after you've put say 10, 15 hours on your tractor, check those nuts again. The paint may have worn loose, the bolt might have worked itself out. Even if the dealership prepped the thing properly, you might find some of them have worked their way a little bit loose. And going through and checking them a second time could prevent them from working loose and something wiggling around and potentially causing a problem. Just like we have bolts holding the attachments onto the tractor, I'm going to say exactly the same thing too about the lug nuts on your tires. Now this should not be a surprise to anybody. If you go get new tires put onto your car, they're generally going to put a little note on your bill there at the bottom that says go around and check them for tightness after 500 miles or something like that. And your tractor is no different. Maybe worse possibly, really, because if you think about the amount of torque and tension that's put on these wheels as you're putting them into the ground, you're pushing into a pile of dirt, you're working these things around, and even if those nuts were torqued properly, you might find them loosening up when you go and you put the machine into the dirt. When a dealership preps a tractor, the core unit itself, we've got a long checklist of say 50, 60 different items that we're going to go around and check as we put that tractor together for the very first time. And it's going to include things like checking all the reservoirs, the front axles, the transmission, the engine oils, the coolants, to make sure all of those things are topped off. One thing though that does happen is once you start putting hours on a tractor, there may have been an air pocket in somewhere, or those oils start to run through those systems and kind of wash around, and you sometimes will see the level of them creep down a little bit. So it's not a bad idea to check a piece of equipment initially, but also after the first say 5 hours or so, run around and check every one of those dipsticks again and just make sure the oil levels haven't dropped. Even if a technician has gone through and properly checked them and topped them off to the right line, you might find that they've creeped down after those first couple of hours. So don't immediately jump to the assumption that, oh, this guy didn't prep my tractor properly. He might have, but that natural dropping of oil does happen in these machines, and it's a good idea to go around and check it. Going around and checking your tire pressures certainly can't hurt either. A lot of your tractive properties of your machine, how well it's going to bite the ground, is based upon your tires being adequately inflated. Most machines are going through and getting some kind of methanol or ballast added in the back of the tire, and so when you do that, you take all of the pressure out of the tire, fill it with liquid, and then top it back off again. Now, most of the time you're going to assume that the technician did that properly, but it's not going to hurt to go around and check that valve stem again. The reason I mention this is you do want to remember, if you've got liquid in that tire, you want to roll the valve stem to the top position. Most of the time these are going to be filled to below the valve stem, so this is still in an air pocket when it's up at the top. You don't want to go and take your nice tire pressure gauge, stick it on down here at the bottom and have that antifreeze solution blown back inside the gauge. Check it with the tire up here at the top position. If your tractor is being delivered to you, there's a very fair chance that the truck driver is going to go and remove the SMV sign from the back of the tractor. These things are held in with little removable brackets because when you're flying down the road, it can blow off very, very easily. So usually these are thrown in the back of a truck. It can be really easy for the driver to forget to give you these things. So just put eyes on your machine. Most equipment, any kind of like four-wheel drive tractor and up, is generally going to come with one of these slow-moving vehicle signs. So definitely want to check that. Also, not a bad idea to put eyes in the toolbox. Usually when you open up these toolboxes, at the very least, you should be finding a top link pin. These things tend to find legs and kind of get robbed for which direction, but you're going to need these kinds of things. So, you know, your tractor is usually going to come with one, but while you're in at the dealership, it's not a bad idea to pick up a couple of extra of these things. They're really inexpensive. You're probably going to need them anyway because you'll lose these. One of the most important maintenance items on your tractor is running around with a grease gun and hitting all of the grease zerks where you might have a pin. When you go through the prepping process for a tractor, generally we're going to go around and try to hit every one of these things and then often take a rag and wipe them off. We wipe them off to keep dirt and stuff from accumulating on top of them. When you look at those joints, you want to make sure that you can see a little bit of grease poking out of each one of them there. It is not a bad idea to run around with a grease gun and even follow up on top of what a technician may have already done. There's a lot of grease zerks on a tractor, and even if you've done them all in the past, it's very easy to overlook them when you're going through and prepping a machine. So having you go through in a second time and kind of take a second look at that is not a bad idea. Like I said, you can't look at these things and assume that just because they're dry that they weren't touched. Wiping them off is never a bad idea, but hitting them a second time is never going to hurt. Another thing that you can check when your tractor is first dropped off is to make a quick pass around the machine and flip all the lights on and off, whether it's the tail lights, the headlights. Flip each one and make sure that it's functional. You'll notice that most tractors are kept outside at dealership lots. We don't have enough interior space in order to store all the inventory that we sell. So just like cars, these things are kept outdoors. For the most part, that doesn't matter. We turn inventory quickly enough that you're not going to see weathering and that kind of stuff on them, but they can sometimes find the periodic issue with a switch or a light or something like that. Now again, the prepping process should catch those kinds of things, but when I'm sitting here in the seat, if I have no one else around to help me, it's a little difficult to know without jumping on and off the tractor whether every one of my lights is working like it should. So taking a second pass around a machine when it's first dropped off and making sure all of that stuff is functional, certainly not a bad idea. On a day like today, you probably don't need extra encouragement to go and start up your tractor and turn on your air conditioner. But if you're having a tractor delivered in the wintertime, you might want to consider it. Go around and check all the HVAC controls on your machine, both the heat and the cooling, to make sure everything is functional. If you're a service technician, you're going through the prepping process. It does take time to start up a machine, let it warm up, let the air conditioner kick on, and there's a very good possibility that you could see a machine slip out where, say, there may have been a coolant leak or something that wasn't detected during the prepping process, and better to find that soon after to having your machine dropped off than when it's 110 degrees outside. When you look over top of your tractor, you have a lot of places where your hydraulic system can potentially have leaks. You have this big reservoir in the back end of the machine, and that fluid is being pumped through the transmission, the loaders, the backhoes, your rear remotes, all of your attachments. It is going everywhere. And for that reason, there's just a lot of opportunities for places for those leaks to develop. Now, in a dealership setting, you think we would do our darndest in order to catch all of that stuff, and we certainly try. But when you go and you look at, say, our parking lots or our shops, there's hydraulic spots everywhere. Things just leak, right? Even when we go and we say, do a demo with a customer out here and take this backhoe off, you're gonna lose a little bit of hydraulic oil in doing that. And so we're gonna get drips and stuff on the ground just from normal operation that just aren't an indicator to us that there's some kind of problem. But once you get your piece of equipment home and you're on a nice clean surface, you might see those kinds of things develop, and it's best to address those things as promptly as possible. 90% of the time, it's usually really minor stuff. Fitting that's not crimped properly or something at the factory didn't tighten completely. So it's not a bad idea if you see that leak develop to check it yourself first and see if you can resolve it quickly and simply. If it gets more complex than that, always reach out as quickly as possible so that we can get out and get it resolved for you as soon as we can. Anybody who works in a dealership will tell you that somewhere inside of every dealership, there is a black hole that has somehow sucked in and consumed all of our keys and owner's manuals. When you have all this equipment around, it's really easy to lose track of this stuff, right? Keys for tractors are generally going to come 2 in a ring. Make sure you get 2 at delivery, and above all, make sure you got an owner's manual. We're not programmed to go through and read these things and look for details, but I honestly will tell you, we refer to them all the time. A tractor's owner's manual, man, sit down at night, go page through the thing and see what you can learn. There's all kinds of great information inside of there. It is such an easy thing for a dealership or a truck driver to lose that if you're not handed that at delivery, make sure you ask for it. So you'll notice that our top 10 doesn't have a number 10. That's simply because I'm going to make a statement that the best thing that you can do when buying that piece of equipment and having it dropped off for the first time is to ask a lot of questions. While you've got the delivery driver there, the salesman's around, make sure to pick those guys' brains and learn as much about that piece of equipment as possible. Whether it's going through things like operation and knowing how to work that machine, there is no substitute for being in the seat and having that educated guy run you through those things. More than welcome to shoot hours of stuff on YouTube for you to watch and consume, but there's no substitute for that hands-on experience that you can get. So enjoy the process. Having one new piece of equipment is a fantastic thing to have around. It is a lot of fun. You'll be blown away by the many new things that you can able to do around your properties and your job sites and your yards. So enjoy the process. So if you're going through that shopping process and we can help, give us a call. Also available for any parts or service needs you have. We're available at 800-222-3373 or online at messick's.com. 2 keys and an owner's manual. Now, a lot of times those manuals are going to be in like a seat back pocket. Oh, come on now. You're going to have like a whole separate blooper video. Okay. You'll notice the service truck,